Guess who's back, y'all? The
property brother.
I keep saying I'm not coming back, but y'all keep sucking me back in, bringing me back in. Seriously, guys, the reason I'm back is, as you guys know, if you watched, I think you did a car chat or something this week, or Get Ready With Me.
A grown. Yeah, Get Ready With Me. The acronym.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the acronym. And I don't know all these acronyms y'all use. It's crazy. Y'all have these crazy YouTube acronyms. I have no idea what they mean. But anyway, you did a Get Ready With Me. That's what it's called, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
I was talking about hair.
You were talking about hair, but you also talked about the fact that I had gone out of town.
Right.
And you scared the hell out of me because you called me at like midnight.
No, it was 2:30.
Was it 2:30?
Yeah, it was around 2:30.
And you were like, and of course, you get a 2:30 phone call. You're in a hotel. I'm like, who died? What's going on?
Exactly.
And you were like, the smoke detector's going off, which is not uncommon in our house, which I assume a lot of you deal with this. One of the smoke detectors start beeping. And I actually think they design stuff in these smoke detectors where they will only go off and start beeping between midnight and like 6 in the morning, and only on weekdays when you got to get up and go to work or take the kids to school. It's never at a convenient time.
And you know what? This is the interesting thing in our house, because, and I'm pretty sure you're going to talk about this, I think they're all connected some kind of way. You have to now, once you commit to getting up and going and change the battery and address the issue, you have to now figure out which one is going off. How many do we have here in this house?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. So you have to just stand in the hallway, just walk around the house. And again, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, trying to figure out which one is beeping.
And sometimes when they're close together, like I've been in situations where there'll be two of them that are close together. I can't figure out which one is beeping and needs its battery changed or needs to be changed out. So just to go back to what you said, the reason in a lot of new construction, a lot of the smoke detectors are networked together, right? So they're networked together, they plug into your house and they connect to all the other smoke detectors. And they use a battery, so they have two power sources.
Do you think you want to kind of touch on what networking is?
Yeah, so they're all connected. The reason they do that is, let's say you're in a house like ours where you got, 3 floors, and there's a basement and there's an upper floor. So the danger there is, if the smoke detectors aren't connected, the smoke detector in the basement might be going off, but you might not hear it up in your bedroom late at night while you're asleep. So the advantage of having them networked and all wired together and hardwired into your house is that if one smoke detector goes off, they all go off. No matter what floor you're on, no matter where you're at. And this is very common in a lot of new construction. Older smoke detectors like the ones I grew up with, they just use the battery, that's it. You change the battery, you were good to go. So it is safer to have them networked and have two power sources, but it's also a little bit of a pain.
A lot of a pain.
I also want to say this is a subject that is near and dear to my heart, because in my short lifetime, I've known, I think, 2 people that have basically had their houses burned down. And we can't sometimes change the laws of fate, so we all want to be prayerful and mindful and say prayers for our family and hope that everyone is safe. But in the 2 incidences of the people I knew, there was one incident where it was a young lady I worked with, and she had a new home built, and it was in Central Florida, and the home had a wood burning fireplace. And I did not know this, but when you have a wood burning fireplace, a lot of us will store the wood in our yard. If you do that, do not store the wood up against your house, because what they think happened in this young lady's case is, believe it or not, Central Florida is the lightning capital of the world. Tampa, Orlando, Winter Haven, all those areas, lightning capital of the world. And so they think what happened is lightning struck the logs and set our house on fire. The other gentleman I knew was a friend of mine. He fell asleep frying food late at night. He was frying food. And for that reason, we don't really fry food in our house. You got to be really careful if you fry food. So that's one of the reasons we don't fry food, other than the fact that it makes a mess.
Oh my gosh, it makes a huge mess.
Gets grease everywhere. It's not healthy. So we don't fry food in our house at all. No French fries, no fried chicken, none of that. If we eat fried food, we try to limit it and we go out to go do it.
Right.
And this is from someone that grew up, I used to work at Chick-fil-A and McDonald's. I was the guy that used to drop fries when I was a teenager. So be careful with how you store logs and how you fry food and some other things you might not think of. Also, for you folks that are renters, or in some cases even have townhouses and condos, make sure your renter's insurance is up to date. As homeowners, in many cases when you have a mortgage, they require you to have insurance. So most homeowners that have a mortgage are automatically going to have insurance here in the States. When you rent, and sometimes when you have a townhouse or a condo, it's a little bit more optional because you don't actually own the building. So some of us will try not to, or not go through the trouble of getting what's sometimes called renter's insurance or contents insurance. but it is worth it. It is typically very inexpensive. There's a story here recently on our local news where it was a teacher, and she had stopped paying her policy like maybe a month, prior to her apartment catching on fire. And as we all know, in apartments and townhouses,
it was actually a house that she was renting.
It was a house that she was renting.
Right. And so the homeowner was actually covered.
That's right. The house was covered, but her stuff wasn't.
Right.
That's why it's called renters or contents insurance. It covers what's inside your house. But especially like in condos and apartments, we can't always control what our neighbors do. So I know like here in Atlanta, it seems like there's an apartment fire every day.
Yeah.
So I think to kind of sum it all up, just be aware of the different types of insurance you can have to protect yourself from a fire, be it homeowner's insurance, be it contents insurance, be it renter's insurance, and just make sure that you're up to date on your policy and are well insured. Remember, the reason for this whole video, the reason we decided to make this is because you guys watched the previous video where my wife was talking about the fact that this smoke detector right above us is the one that was faulty, that needed to be switched out.
Right. I'm sorry, babe. And right, someone wanted to know, so she asked, and I forget your name, sorry, but she wanted to know, well, what do you do if you change the batteries and it is still beeping?
Yeah, so let's go up the ladder here and take a look and find out. And
you, my friend, are wearing shoes in the house. Why?
Well,
in the house?
Yeah, normally we don't wear shoes in the house for hygienic reasons, but ladder safety. You don't want to be up on a ladder barefoot or in flip-flops.
But wait, the night that I had to do it, babe, I was up there with flip-flops on.
Dangerous. So then, not only am I getting a call about the smoke detector, but now you're in the hospital because you fallen off the ladder.
And guys, I think I said that Eric was trying to tell me how to take it off of the wall, but it is actually up here in the ceiling.
Yeah, most of them are going to be in the
ceiling. Yeah, that circle there, point to it, babe.
Yeah.
That is the smoke detector. So I was on the top rung, talking.
You're on the top rung because you're so short.
Well, I'm not short, okay? That's A. And 2, it was really early in the morning. I did not feel like, grabbing my sneakers. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the actual unit. So when you have a smoke detector, it actually has 2 units, typically. You have the base, which is this plastic part up here. And then the smoke detector itself, you twist it into the base. So we've removed the smoke detector and taken the battery out. And I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But you'll notice this is where it was wired in or networked.
And it was so difficult for me to pull it out.
It should not have been. All you do is twist it counterclockwise.
Well, yeah, I was able to take the face off, but to detach it from that piece.
Yeah, this can be kind of tight.
Right.
Yeah, that can be kind of tight. And so when you're taking one of these down, you want to twist it, pull it down, it should come right out. And you want to make note of the brand of the smoke detector. Because here's what happens. Let's say this ends up being a faulty smoke detector and I have to buy a new one. You want to get the same brand, because if you get the same brand, I should not have to replace this base. This base is screwed in, but if I get the same brand or the same model, I should be able to reuse this piece and just screw the other one on here. And I'll show you what that looks like up close here in a minute. So we have First Alert, which I think is very common here in the States for new construction. They sell those at Lowe's. So just be aware, depending on the brand you have, it might be a different store. I think Home Depot sells more of the Kiddie brand, Kiddie, and I believe Lowe's is more of the First Alert, which is used in a lot of construction. So just be aware, and you might want to check the internet if you're going to replace one so that you know which store to go to. Okay guys, so here is all our equipment that I'm going to walk you through as we go through the smoke detector fire safety. This is the unit we took down, or we removed from the ceiling. You can see it's a First Alert. And one of the things that's unique about this one, you'll notice on the label here, it says this is a smoke and carbon monoxide detector, okay? So this also has a battery compartment, right? So what you want to do when it starts giving you those 3 beeps and it's telling you the battery needs to be changed, first thing you want to do is try a fresh battery and plug it back into the ceiling and see if that works. Now, when you put in a battery, and look, we do a lot of dollar store hauls on this channel. We've done a lot of dollar store hauls. So you have these inexpensive dollar store 9-volt batteries, and most of your smoke detectors are going to use 9-volt. I think these are fine for some household applications, but in a smoke detector where you don't want to have to be changing out batteries, I would go for something like a Duracell or an Energizer that's going to last a little bit longer. I wouldn't necessarily put a dollar store battery into your household smoke detector. So let's go back to where we started. The alarm's going off. I've taken it down from the ceiling. What do I do next? I've taken the old battery out, so this compartment is empty, and I'm gonna put in a new 9-volt Duracell. Now these are designed such that it's not gonna fit in, because you know you have two different kind of connections here for your battery. It won't fit if you put it in the wrong way. So I've obviously put it in the correct way because it fits and it closes. And you see it's already started beeping, letting me know that a new battery's been installed. So what I would do at this point is plug this back into the ceiling and see if it still beeps. So let's do that next. So now I've got a fresh battery in here. I'm going to plug it back into my network here, push it up and turn it and see if it still beeps. If it still beeps, there's one more thing I can try to stop it from beeping. So we'll try that one more thing, and if it beeps after that, unfortunately, you're gonna need a new smoke detector, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. All right, so unfortunately, this alarm is still beeping. So we're still getting alerts telling us that there's something wrong with this alarm. And of course, you wanna check and make sure that indeed there is no carbon monoxide, there is no fire. So we wanna double check and make sure that the alarm is not going off for a valid reason. So in the case of fire, I think it's obvious on how to go and look for fire. We all recognize the signs of fire. With CO2, you just want to check all your gas lines, make sure the stove isn't on. You want to have more than one CO2 detector in your house, right? So if only one of them is going off, but you have two that maybe aren't, that's a good way to test. Open some windows. If you're really concerned, call the fire department. They'll come out and do a test also. But this one I think is faulty, so we're going to take it down. So I'm going to unscrew it counterclockwise, let it drop, and I'm just going to hold it and pull this plug out. And you do have to put a little bit of force on here. You're pretty tight. So be careful when you're yanking that down. Make sure you don't fall off the ladder. So bad news, guys, with this alarm. It appears as though this is a faulty alarm. Now, how do alarms become faulty, right? Here's the thing to understand about smoke detectors. They do not have an unlimited shelf life. They should last around 10 years. However, this is also a CO2 detector. Carbon monoxide detectors have a shorter shelf life. They last, from what my understanding is, between 5 and 7 years. And this alarm is about 6 years, probably about 6 years old. And so I'm thinking the CO2 in this has gone bad, and it's probably time to replace it. There are a couple more things I can do just to make sure. So before I say I'm gonna go buy a new one, I'm gonna take the battery out, close it, and then I'm gonna press the alarm button and let it power down all the way, right? This totally drains the power from any internal circuitry and electronics. Any of the capacitors that are inside is gonna drain all the power from those. The other thing I might do, grab your household vacuum and just suction out as much dust as you can from any openings that are around it. And try it one more time, put the battery back in, try it again, and see if it still beeps. And unfortunately, if it still beeps, even after all that, you're gonna have to go buy a new smoke alarm. So here is the alarm that I bought to replace our first alert alarm. Now here's what's interesting. When I went to Lowe's, the brand is called BRK, but it's by First Alert. It's the same alarm. This is the brand that builders use. So when your builder typically is building a house, they will get this BRK brand. It's actually the exact same brand and make and company as First Alert, but it's half the price.
Well, let me say this. When I saw the box, I was like, I know Eric did not go and buy some generic smoke detector.
So let's do this.
I don't want generic smoke detector.
So this is the new one. First Alert. Comes with a battery, which is good.
All right, First Alert.
And you can see it's the same shape. It's got a base, but we don't have to worry about this base because we already got a base installed in the ceiling. So we don't have to screw this in. So we can just take this off and not even use it. So we don't even need this piece because we've already got it up in our ceiling, so we'll discard that. And then this is our old one. So you can see they're the same.
All right.
And this one's half the price of the exact same brand if it just said First Alert. And the reason it's the same, but builders will buy like a box of like 20 of these.
So they're giving them a little discount.
Yeah, they get a discount. So this is an alternative. Now, you're probably saying, well, if you're keeping up, this one is just a smoke detector. This one has the CO2 detector. You can buy this with the CO2. It costs about doubles the price. Now, I did not get a CO2 detector, and here's why. I personally am not a big fan of having an integrated CO2 and fire alarm. And this is just personal preference, because I like to know which alarm is which. If the smoke detector is going off, I want to know whether or not it's CO2 or fire. And with these, it's hard to tell. And again, the CO2 alarm shortens the shelf life. So what I do, let's move this old one to the side. I showed this in a previous video. This is a kitty alarm from Home Depot, so a different brand. But this is a plug-in carbon monoxide alarm, and it just plugs into an outlet. And we talked about this in a previous video. We've got one of these in our basement and in our kitchen and upstairs. What I like about this is a totally separate alarm. So I know it's not I know it's not fire if it goes off, and it's portable. I can take it with me. And we talked about in our last video, as Airbnb and rental homes become more popular, you need alarms like this that you can take with you just to make sure that there's not a gas leak in the home that you're renting. So I like to separate the CO2 alarm from the fire alarm. So let's talk about prices. This CO2 alarm is about $20, Home Depot.
That's not bad, considered it saves lives.
This First Alert, and this is technically the BRK brand, but it's made by First Alert, was $15. If you buy the First Alert branded alarm or the one with CO2, it's probably gonna about double the price, so that'll be about $30. Another thing you're gonna want to buy for safety is you wanna have a fire extinguisher in your kitchen. And these can range from, I've actually seen cans that you can use, so it's not a full extinguisher, it's just an aerosol can. Those will run you about 15 bucks. This will run you anywhere between 30 and probably 60 bucks. But we want to keep this and make sure it's not expired in your kitchen for those grease fires that obviously you don't ever want to put water on a grease or electrical fire. All right, guys, so we're on the last steps. This is my new smoke detector. As you see, it came with the base, right? This came with the new smoke detector. It came in 2 parts. I don't need this because I've got my old base, right? And the new smoke detector uses the same base as my old base. It's the same model. So I can put this to the side. I am just going to simply plug this in so it networks with the other smoke detectors. Push it up, turn it clockwise, and we should be good to go. And if I want to, I can test it. So we'll push this, it'll get a little loud, but let's go ahead and run a test on it. And you can hear all of them going off because they're networked. So you hear all of them going off when I push that button. So you want to test it occasionally. So guys, as we conclude this, I want to wrap up by saying I really wanted to do this video for a couple of reasons. One, you guys requested it. So, you know, anytime there's a request for the Property Brother and you guys see a lot of them, if I know something about it, we will definitely try to do a video on it. Obviously there's a lot I don't know about home maintenance, but if I know it, I will definitely, or we will definitely shoot a video on it. The second reason I wanted to do this video is, you know, my wife and I, we don't just make YouTube videos, we watch a lot of YouTube videos. And I cannot tell you how many times we've been watching a YouTube video, somebody's in their house doing something, and I'll think it's the smoke detector in our house. I'm like, does our smoke detector battery need changing? And it's not our house, it's the person shooting the video has not changed or checked their smoke detector. So for those of you out there, please, if that smoke detector is beeping, you know, make sure you're changing it, make sure you're checking it on a yearly basis, keeping it up to date. I know we're all tempted when they start beeping to just unplug them and take the batteries out and put them to the side for a day. And that's fine. That's a temporary solution. I'll get those smoke detectors back in there, get fresh batteries. And again, that's not to say that, you know, with all of this, sometimes our lives are controlled by a power greater than ours. So tragedy can strike any of us, but what we want to make sure happens is we're doing all we can to prevent, you know, those tragedies in our lives and keeping our homes and our children and our families safe.